Hi there folks, this is Infected One, and I have taken upon myself to make a tutorial series for Stalker Gamma, with the hope of making it less overwhelming and more accessible to the Stalker enthusiasts. Each episode is going to be focused on a specific subject because of the sheer amount of detail and information. And now before we start this episode, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel for more awesome content. Weapons. Don't we just love them? We love collecting them, displaying them, putting them in a big pile on our floor, maybe even shooting them, maybe even running out of bullets and knifing your way out of a situation. Well, Stalker Gamma is no stranger to juicy gunplay, with an absurd amount of guns, attachments, and ammo types. It just makes you want to shoot them all. In this episode, we are going to learn about gun mechanics, attachments, and ammunition. So let's dive in. Starting with some general info, guns split into 4 tiers. A tier are pistols and early game weapons like Pepesh. B tier guns, which are advanced early game weapons and also require only basic tools to fix, same as A tier. C tier, which are the mid game guns, they require advanced tools to fix and maintain. And lastly, D tier, which are the late or end game weapons, and they require expert tools to fix and maintain, which I don't have, and they're very rare. Now a quick disclaimer, this episode will not talk about weapon fixing, it will be a separate episode. Now after talking about different kinds of guns, which obviously shoot different kinds of caliber, we need to know that the same caliber of ammo might appear in several types. Some types of guns have only one ammo type for their caliber, some weapon types have 2 kinds of ammo for their caliber, and the rest of the weapon types have 3 kinds of ammunition per their caliber. Now ammo types usually go by FMJ, hollow point, and AP armor piercing. HP being very good for flash damage but not very good for armor, armor being very good for armor piercing but not very good for damage like the HP, and FMJ is in the middle. Now some shotguns have the 3.0 but in a different version where buckshot is their HP, does no armor piercing but does a lot of flash damage. There's a regular slug which is like their FMJ, it does less damage than buckshot but does have armor piercing properties, and the AP slug, which has the lowest damage for this caliber but has the highest armor piercing ratio. There's also calibers that don't have AP properties, like the Pepesh ammo only comes in FMJ and HP, like the 45 ACP also comes in HP, which is Hydroshock, and FMJ. It's usually pretty straightforward and easy to understand what's what. As you can see, if you check the stats, the HP always has the lowest AP and the highest damage compared to its counterparts of the same caliber. So as a rule of thumb, HP bullets are best against mutants that don't have armor. FMJ are good all-rounders, they mostly work the best for light and medium armored stalkers, and if you're in a pickle you can also use it on mutants. AP are very good at penetrating armor, and they're good for armored stalkers. The more armored, the better. Now for the final section of the general info, the attachments. NATO Trader will sell mostly NATO attachments, and Warsaw Pact traders will sell mostly Warsaw Pact attachments. This difference we already learned in the trader episode of this series. Easiest way to know if an attachment from a trader fits your gun is just hover your mouse over the gun, and if the attachments are highlighted, they fit your gun. Easy. Scopes that have NV are night vision scopes. Sights and scopes that have HV are thermal scopes. Some weapons like the SA-58 and the Remington 700 have kits that can customize the gun to be a different variant of the same gun. For example, this is not a regular Remington 700, it's a Remington 700 Magpul Pro. As you can see, there's a kit over here. A quick demonstration with the SA-58. We're gonna buy the Defender, we're gonna buy the Scout, and we're gonna slap it on, just like so. As you can see, it changed the entire gun. It even came with a scope and a small RMR. Now we can slap on the Defender, and it takes off the Scout and it uses the Defender, which is also a different preset. But here comes the tricky part. I found my Remington 700 as a Magpul Pro. I did not make it from a regular M700. So if I buy the M700 Mod X and I try to slap it on, nothing will happen because I need the regular Remington 700. So as you probably saw by now, attachments are separated for kits, grenade launchers, sights, scopes, and suppressors, most of which are pretty straightforward in what they do. Except the suppressors, I mean, we know it suppresses the gun, but there are some hidden stats which are not mentioned in the description. These are the stats. I want to point out that the plus 7% damage increase is applied only to stalkers and not mutants. Now with that knowledge out of the way, let's go over the other weapon stats we have. The accuracy is basically the dispersion that the gun has. The higher it is, the tighter the dispersion of bullets when you're aiming down sights or firing from the hip. Handling only affects when not aiming down sights and shooting from the hip how inaccurate your gun is. So the higher the handling, the more accurate your gun when shooting from the hip and not ADSing. Fire rate is fire rate, it's how many bullets it shoots per minute. The higher the number is, the faster it shoots. Mag size speaks for itself. Max range is the range that the bullet flies before it's just despawning out of existence. Most zones in Stalker Gamma are not even that long, so it's always there, it's always in the zone. Muzzle velocity is how fast the bullet is traveling. The faster the bullet is traveling, the less bullet drop it has. Reliability is how reliable is your gun. The more you shoot, the more it breaks. If the reliability is high, it's gonna break less. If the reliability is lower, it's gonna break more. And recoil control is just what you think it is how much recoil kick it has. And now we're gonna go to the range and I'm gonna show you the difference between 3 guns with 3 different recoil controls. In the next clip, I'm gonna show you the difference between an M4 Protector which has 77 recoil control and a fire rate of 805, and then AK-74N which has 87 recoil control and a fire rate of 650. And you are right, there is a difference in the fire rate which shows. That's why I'm gonna also show the EP5 which has a recoil control of 64, shoots slower than the AK at 600 RPM. And this proves that recoil matters. Now, explaining how the damage stat works in Stalker Gamma is pretty complicated because there's a lot of calculations going into every shot you take. It's not as straightforward as the stats say when the damage just 34 because there's a lot of variables. If you want to know more about how each variable is affecting your gun, watch the next clip. Okay, just so you have a little bit of grasping on how the ballistics in Gamma work, I'm going to this website, which I'm gonna link down below in the description, and you have to account so many variables, which we're gonna do right now. We chose that we're shooting a snork with the gun we're owning. It is silenced. The barrel condition is 94. It's above 70. If it's lower than 70, there's a damage penalty. As long as it's above 70, there's no damage penalty. We choose, let's say, FMJ because we don't have HP for some reason. And my target is a snork and we're shooting it at the torso at 50 meters range on hard mode. So you can see that the base damage it's showing here, this is straight up from the files. It's higher than the stats shown in game. You can see that the hit zones, also known as hitboxes for the snork, the torso is 90% damage multiplier. FMJ, ammo multiplier. The ammo itself does a multiplier to your damage. This is the multiplier. And then there's another GBO per ammo damage multiplier. Fuck knows what that even means. And then the estimated damage from these shots are this, roughly 6 shots to kill. Now if you do to the head and we calculate anew, it's 1 shot to kill. But this is also a very rough estimate because sometimes it's not so. This website has explanations for nerds if you want to read through it, but it doesn't take into account some factors which it just can't. It just can't take everything into account. Yeah, pretty crazy, right? Well, the calculator is always available for you. And remember, it's only rough estimates and just use whatever guns feels best for you. Okay, in the next clip, I'm gonna show you how muzzle velocity affects bullet drop. Now you can see the R700 has a muzzle velocity of 888 and the VSS.K has only 420. I'm going to shoot at this mercenary at about 100 meters or so using both guns. I'm gonna aim above his head, and the point is I should not be hitting him in the head unless the bullet has dropped. We're gonna start with the VSSK with the lower muzzle velocity, meaning more bullet drop. And now switching over to the M700, you can see how close I can get to this guy's head, and the bullet didn't even drop. It means the muzzle velocity affects accuracy. It makes the bullet more pinpoint accurate because you don't have to compensate for bullet drop. Now a brief clip to show you how damage fall off is scaling with distance. I'm gonna use the same gun to shoot this dude at 50 meters and at his face. I'm gonna shoot only the head. You can see that the 50 meters it takes 3 headshots for me to kill him, and in his face it takes 2 shots for me to make him drop to wounded status, which means it did more damage than the 2 shots at 50 meters. Next up we're gonna talk about weapon upgrades. There is a number of weapon upgrades going from handling, reliability, accuracy, flatness, recoil, and fire rate. There's also some special modifications like changing the caliber or making a pistol which is semi-auto go full auto, and these are like not any category, but they're just there, you can like read them. So handling, it reduces the inaccuracy modifiers that are present only when not aiming down sight, which mean hip fire, and this includes like movements and stances like standing, crouching, prone. Reliability reduces the condition loss of each part after each shot. Accuracy tightens the dispersion cone regardless of firing from the hip or aiming down sights. It's not really as meaningful as you think because weapons that have like 0 accuracy still have a very tight dispersion cone, which is like 1.5% angle, I think. Flatness increases the bullet speed and also improves accuracy by a tiny amount. The damage drop off is not affected by flatness whatsoever. It's always there. It's per caliber, so it won't fix that. Recoil decreases the camera climb when shooting. However, it does not reduce the camera shake. The shake will always be there. It's only reducing how the camera will go up while you are shooting. Fire rate just increases the fire rate by the RPM. It says percentages, but usually if it says like 5%, it usually just 5 RPM more. So if I have a 800 RPM gun and I have plus 5%, it's not 5% from the 800, it's just plus 5. So it becomes 805 RPM. I don't know why it's like this, but it is what it is. Now sometimes you have to choose between 2 mods and installing only one. I usually go first recoil, then flatness, fire rate, accuracy, reliability, and handling at the end because sometimes you just have to slap on some handling to move to the next upgrade. Ammo crafting in Stalker Gamma is very important because ammo can get very expensive. So you usually use a gunsmithing tool to repurpose ammo you do not need into ammo you need. Let's say for example, I have the M4 protector and I don't have any of the bullets over here, but I did pick up some 545 from enemies. And I always suggest carrying around gunsmithing tools. No matter where you go, it's only half a kilo, and you can always, during a fight, disassemble some bullets like so, open the workbench, go to ammo, and just craft, and you can just repurpose them like that. And now you have burritos. How about them apples? Now just to demonstrate how this assembly works, let's go to these bullets again. This is 45 bullets, basically 3 stacks of 15. We're gonna disassemble once and you see you got 12 small bullets. We got 18 casing and we got 10 powder. Now if we do this again, you can see that it's randomizing the amount every single time you disassemble. So it's a different amount per batch. And remember, it's always better to have less bullets that you use than a lot of bullets that just pick up dust in your box. And this is the end of this episode. We have talked about guns, their attachments, what their attachments are doing. We talked about the gun stats. We talked about how crazy the damage calculation is in Stalker Gamma. We introduced you to the website. You can do it by yourself. We talked about ammo crafting and the importance of carrying around gunsmithing tools everywhere you go. And I hope that this episode was influential and actually taught you a lot. If you enjoyed, please watch different episodes of this series, like and subscribe again, and I'll see you all some other time. Peace!